Alright everybody, just making this video. It seems that the Tesla community in general has had a negative reaction to the latest redesign of the user interface. And there's definitely some things that are not ideal, in my opinion. But I think a lot of the things that people are complaining about are not completely valid, or there are reasons for the changes that people don't really understand. So I wanted to go over, what some of those things are. So most of it concerns with the left side of the screen here. In this section, first and foremost, it got larger, and I am hoping that that is something that will be controllable in the future by the user, because just fundamentally, this is where the user apps are, and this is really outside of the user's control on the left there. So I want more pixels, more screen space under my control rather than not under my control. So fundamentally, I would like to see that go back to the old size, at least, or have adjustable sizes, as some people have suggested, or different layouts that are user selectable. All of those things have been suggested in the past few days, and it seems like Tesla and Elon are open to them. One of the changes is that the battery went from a green icon to a gray icon, and people are complaining about that. So I'm going to correlate this to anybody who's on Android went through the same experience a couple of years ago when the Android UI took out the color across the top bar. And it went to all grayscale. It's all white or all gray, or depending on what theme your phone has or whatever. But it's colorless. Whereas the icons years and years ago used to be able to be all sorts of colors. And when you have so many conflicting colors, it can actually be distracting and difficult to find what is actually important. And I think there's really two things going on here from Tesla's point of view. One is that they're only going to color things that need to draw your attention. You can see the reflection of my face here in the screen. So the battery, I suspect, I haven't driven below 20%, but I believe, or I suspect, once you get to 20% or below, that it will turn orange again, or whatever. I think it was orange, yellow, red, something like that, and to draw your attention to it, because at that point it becomes more important information to what you're doing. But for normal driving usage, it's not something that you really need to be looking at, so gray is fine. The other thing is that a reasonably large percentage of the population is actually colorblind. So making something green doesn't necessarily help them. And I want to say it's something like 1%. My father's colorblind. I want to say it's like 1% of the population. It's more common in males than females, like a lot more common in males. And red-green colorblindness is the most common one. There are some other forms and some other color deficiencies and whatnot, but in any case, I believe that is when you're addressing a population of millions and millions of people. I think things like that do become important. Dyslexia is another. So there are just sort of visual conditions that I believe they are trying to take into account and design to. And I think color blindness is one of them. I think dyslexia is another one of them. So just with the way they've organized the information on the display here. So that explains the missing green on the battery. The Prindle, there's no L, but the Prind, whatever, PRND. Your gear selectors, I think the font size is a bit small. That could be a little larger there in the upper left corner. But they are fundamentally grouped, and they are in the traditionally expected sequence. So I don't think that's a big deal there. The speedometer, I'll drive here momentarily, but the speedometer did move from sort of the center here up into the corner. And some people are complaining, oh, they're OCD, and it bothers them because it's not centered anymore. Really, the reason for that is less eye movement. So it's the minimum, from the driver's perspective. This corner is the minimum amount of eye movement. If I'm looking here out my windscreen, that's where I want the speedometer to be. So it's almost in your peripheral vision, whereas being centered, we're only talking an inch or two, but that does minimize the eye movement and should help people focus on the speedometer quicker. Again, people are complaining about the font size. I think that's an easy fix. They can just bump it up a click. There appears to be the room to do so. They probably should do that. But positionally, that's the reason it's there. It is the sort of most critical piece of information, and they want to make it as easily accessible to your eye as possible. So that's why that was done. Further down, the cards were, they're still really here. So I can go over to the trip and go over to your tire pressure, and it just slides that up out of the way. But the wipers, the sort of your default, the center dot there, used to be the wipers, and that was always, pretty much. And it had, it had the 3 buttons. It had this one, the camera button, and I forget what else, a charging button. But there's like 8 different ways of getting to the charging screen, so that was like highly redundant. And I forget what the third one was, or maybe it was the wipers or something like that. In any case, they moved 2 of them right down here, so like they moved it from here to here, so it's not really a huge change. There was plenty of room in this bottom bar, so you can put your rear camera on very easily. You can bring up the wiper screen very easily. You can always bring up the wiper screen from it's the turn signal side. You can't see it, it's dark. But if you press the turn signal and do the single wipe, that will also, it always has and still does bring up that little pop-up for you. So the wipers are more accessible. And there was something that was at Germany. There was some case where a guy wrecked his car because he said he was looking for the wiper control or something like that. So Tesla may have made that, put it in the fundamental, control bar there. And again, it's a consistency issue. We're fundamentally more consistent with where you're putting buttons. You don't have just random buttons scattered. They're all here. And that's pretty much it. When we're moving next to the speedometer, we then have the cruise control, the little circle for your cruise control speed, the auto steer icon, and then the speed limit. And those are all grouped together, and those are all sort of relevant. So all your speed information, your current speed, your cruise control set speed, the speed limit are all very close to each other, where they used to be scattered. The speed limit was over here, your speed was here, the cruise control speed was up there. It was just very, very scattered. So now all that speed information and autopilot information is grouped together. As far as when you could enable cruise control, the one icon was here and the other icon was over here, and they were like in 2 completely different spots. So it was hard to explain to people, like, oh, you got to look here, and this, you can tap it once and turn your cruise control on, and then when this steering wheel shows up way over here, then you can tap it twice. But they were in 2 completely different spots. So now that's all grouped together, and they're all right here, very accessible, right next to your speedometer. So those are the reasons that these things have changed. On the whole, I do believe it is a step forward improvement. I think most of the complaints are just people aren't used to it, and a lot of it is they don't understand the reason for the changes. So I just wanted to touch on some of those. I am going to go ahead and put it. So now it brings up the D there briefly. So when you change, I'll put it in reverse again. It brings up the R there. So we have it on the little pernal here, but it also replaces your speedometer with 0 or hold, drive, briefly, and then it'll go back. It'll go to your speed as you move. So you can see the speed limit there on, to the right of it. So now if I get on the road, let me go this way. All right, so there's our cruise control pop up, and there's our autopilot. So I can enable them, and now everything turns blue. So the D turns blue to tell us that we're in, we are in drive, but the car is driving, so that's why that little D on the Perndle turned blue. The blue circle around the 35 is our set speed for the cruise control, and I just turned the high beam on, so we obviously have the blue high beam, and I believe that's a requirement that all the indicators, just touch the screen, all the indicators on the left there, those icons I think have to be a certain size, and they all have to have their own area, to be in. I think that's, I haven't looked at the FMVSS lately, but I believe that's, requirements. But anyway, the blue 35 is that, cruise control is enabled, and 35 is the set speed. And then the steering wheel next to it, sorry for the bumpy blurriness, but that is the, I'm on auto high beam, so I didn't high beam that guy. That's auto steer, and that tells us that the car is in fact steering around this, currently twisty road. My hand is on the wheel. So, that's the reason. So everything is grouped together, and then obviously the blue lines. So all these blue indications are telling you what the car is doing, self-driving wise, that kind of a thing. So again, I don't think it needs to be quite as large as it is. Obviously they want to emphasize that, they want to build trust. I think there's more coming in this main screen here. I think we're going to possibly see the bird's eye view, and again, I hope that more visualizations appear, because they are sort of hit and miss. I think the car is seeing more things than it displays on the visualization, as we obviously saw with the full self-driving beta, which I do not have full self-driving in North beta, but I think they are going to start to put more stuff in that screen, and that's why they wanted the bigger screen. We have more, definitely, vertical real estate. I don't know if they needed to push it out, left to right as well, because again, I'd rather have those user pixels on the right. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the beta update. I don't mind it. I think it is a step forward. I think there are some things that can be and should be fundamentally improved, and I'm certain that Tesla will do so. And yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thanks.